Produced by the IH Sports Network. The Roundtable begins now.
Good Monday evening, everybody, and welcome to the Roundtable on the IH Sports Network alongside the voice of the Indians, Tim Smith, the voice of the Highlanders, Rick Keaton. I'm Ben Garrett. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are live at El Rey in Oneida. We'll be here for the next couple of hours. We invite you to come out and join us in person to be a part of the show. Got a lot coming your way tonight, as we always do. Every Monday, we're going to talk about Oneida Middle School football. The Indians are going to be playing for a championship on Saturday, and Coach Jason Terry will stop by and join us in just a little while. We're going to talk to a couple of players from Oneida and Scott High as well. We'll talk to Oneida basketball coach Jacob King as we start our segments with basketball coaches over the next couple of weeks. And we've got our legend of the game. And Rick Keaton, I think the teaser that we put out is that he is a record-breaking Scott High running back, former Scott High running back. Now, some people might think they know who that is, but that could be one of several people. Tim Smith had a good guess, but it was incorrect. But he did guess a record-breaking Scott High running back. So
there you go.
You're just going to have to stay tuned for that to see who that is, as that will be coming up in the second half of the show. First, as we always do, let's talk about Friday night's games. Tim, I'm going to turn to you first and talk about Oneida. The Indians got back on the winning track Friday night, really needed a win. We talked about that last week. Oneida needed to build some confidence, and Friday night was the first step in that direction as they got the 27-19 win.
Yeah, I mean, for the first two quarters, it was pretty shaky, though. You go in at halftime, the Indians are down 6-0 to Sequoia. We had talked in the pregame, talked last week about the struggles this team had. There's a 4A team, so it's a huge school with a lot of talent. I mean, we saw it warming up, and even just prior to kickoff, I know for some reason Kevin Akers didn't have the music going in the stadium at the time, and you could hear the excitement on the Sequoia Chiefs as they were warming up. They did not warm up like an 0-8 team. They warmed up like a team that was looking like they had plans to break this streak. They felt like they had a good chance to do it Friday night, and that was their plan. He started playing the music just to try to dampen the atmosphere a little bit. But they came out strong. Like I say, they have good athletes. I mean, when you look at them, they certainly have good size, strength, speed going for them down there. And they had a good plan coming out, and they were able to move the ball up and down the field for the first few drives and only capitalized with 6 points, which was a very fortunate event. And, of course, the Oneida defense had something to do with that. But the Indian offense in that first half sputtered, had penalties, the things that have been plaguing Oneida this year offensively to get things going, and went in down 6-0 at the locker room. And so, I mean, it was a, kind of a dim, dark halftime situation to be in. You were getting the football to start the second half, a chance to kind of set the tone. And so the Indians came out and they did that. They took the ball, went down the field and scored, and then they stopped Sequoia and they scored again. And in my mind, I thought, that should do it. This team has lost 8 in a row, and 8 in a row this year.
43 in a row.
42 at that night. 42 at that point. Now they're down. That should put the pin in the balloon, but it didn't. And here came Sequoia back. They challenged again, which is a testament to them. I do think their coach is trying to build something there. They looked a lot better this year than they did last year. Looked like they had a definite plan, a definite game plan. They were executing it. They had excitement. So I think good things are ahead for the Chiefs. The Indians were able to hold them off and get the win in the end, and they did it again. We always expect the unexpected now with the Indians, because we had talked all year long about the first 8 games about how the pass was the strength. You got to set that run up with the pass, but it was really the running game was big, but the running game was, and he was player of the game, was Caden Rector, making good decisions, and part of that is too, you've got TJ Meredith, drawing a lot of attention. Teams know what he's capable of. He's just a step away most of the times, and so sometimes they go a little bit lax on that run-pass option, and when Caden sees them shading toward TJ, he took his opportunities, and he did an outstanding job making decisions on Friday night. And he really scored one more touchdown than he got credit for, because one was a 52-yard touchdown was called back, and then he made up for it by running for another 52-yard touchdown. So, the Indians did a good job. They found some things on the ground, And we've had some things in the passing game that weren't really there Friday night. So as we're going to talk about later, though, 4-5 going into senior night this Friday night. You go from facing a team that hasn't won since 2018 to a team that's only lost once this year in Coalfield. So things get very different Friday.
Yeah, Coalfield, and I did not see the new AP poll today to see where Coalfield's ranked this week. I know they were 7th, I think, going into last week. To me, Rick, we've seen Coalfield. I think that's way underranked. I mean, Coalfield is they may have a good shot at getting to the state championship game this year. So, not to get ahead of the discussion, but very good team.
Just on the
up.
ranking part, you may be right. I had this discussion with somebody I was talking to on the way home today. I don't know. I think Coalfield is far and above the class of single A this side of the Central Time Zone. I think Hampton is that in double A. But I don't know when you get past that Central Time Zone if this section is as strong as the rest of the state, though.
Okay.
Well, I could throw Clay County in that mix.
Yeah.
From the Central Time Zone.
We'll talk about that in the next segment where we saw what Clay County did to York on Friday night. They're pretty good too. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to find out over the next couple of weeks. All right, and Rick, Scott High falling to Gatlinburg on Friday, 51-20. And as I looked at this game, my takeaway for Scott High for a second week in a row, and you talked for so long this season about Scott High finding ways to sustain drives, to find the end zone. For the second week in a row, there were some things there offensively to build on.
Well, there certainly are. It's finding enough of those things. And can we get over that 21-point, 30-point hump, so to speak, because we know some of the teams we play, they're going to score 30, 40, maybe more. We've had a tough time stopping that. So when we get a little bit better in this area, something else seems to fall away. It would be interesting. We'd have to go back for 52 years and really dig and dig and dig. Coach Chris Harris has, I don't know that it's a gamble because it's a calculated gamble. He's opened so many games this year, seemed like, with the onside kick. Once again, Friday night, opens the game. Kicking to GP, we recovered the onside kick. Recovered on the, I think, 47-yard line of GP. Put together that 47-yard drive. Get the touchdown, lead. So if anybody was looking at Coach T or something, look there and say, hey, Scott High's leading, with probably, 6-7 minutes to go in the first quarter, it might surprise a lot of people. We have our moments. And we certainly had them. On the next possession, Gatlinburg-Pittman, they got the ball, long drive. They got a touchdown. And then pretty soon we were starting to kick off again. We tried another onside kick. And if we just pounced on the ball, we would have had another onside kick near midfield. And everybody knows, statistically speaking, you start your drive at midfield, you got like a 70% chance of scoring compared to starting on your own 20-yard line, where GP put us at most of the game when they were kicking off because their kick selling into the end zone. We start at 20-yard line. Your chance of scoring suddenly goes from midfield 70%, starting at your 20, back to about 20% that you sustain a drive 80 yards and score a touchdown. That is and I probably put that in my notes and discuss that pregame, sustaining drives, finding a way to score, running time off the clock, shortening the game a little bit so that the high-scoring teams, you sort of can think you got a chance going into that fourth quarter. But Gatlinburg-Pittman, as good as any team we've seen this year, and I felt like we've seen a few really good teams, but they are real good. Will they beat Alcoa when they match up second or third round in the playoffs? Probably not, but they are a really good team. They have a quarterback that is setting records. They have 2 wide receivers, one with over 600 yards and one with over 800 yards. This was last week, so I hadn't added up that number what they put up against us, and a running back that was already over 1,100 yards. So they got a lot of offensive tools, and they find a way to use those offensive tools. And we gave them a couple of opportunities to have some short fields, and they took advantage of that. And we were starting at our own 20-yard line. There was one time, I think, first half we started at our 19-yard line, then 4 straight times we started at our 20-yard line. And it's just hard to gain the momentum, sustain a drive, take a lot of time off the clock, and if you're going 3 and out, you're not taking much time off the clock. So it's a process. And are we better than when we played Cofield at the beginning of the year? Probably so.
Yeah, based on what we have seen 2 weeks ago, I would have said no. But based on what we've seen the last 2 weeks against Fulton and Gatlinburg, I think you're right. I think this team has definitely improved. We've seen Scott High.
Despite all the injuries, despite
the injuries, right?
Despite the ejections that have cost us games that players had to sit out, so despite those things, we have gained, I feel, on the field.
Now, we got to be clear. Gatlinburg was always going to win Friday's game.
No doubt.
We talked, I think we probably talked last Monday, but I know you talked in the pregame Friday about how Gatlinburg and Anderson County, these last 2 games of the season, may be the toughest games that Scott High would have all year. Gatlinburg certainly lived up to their part. This past week, Gatlinburg had only 4 third downs in that game. They did not have a single 4th down, so they converted all 4 of their 4th downs. It was just Scott High didn't stop them defensively. But offensively, one thing that stood out to me for Scott High offensively Friday night, when they picked up yards against Fulton, they went into that full house backfield ogre look, and they just mashed on Fulton a little bit. Whereas against Gatlinburg, now Gatlinburg's got a lot more size and strength, and Scott probably was not going to move the football between the tackles as easily as Gatlinburg, so they empty the backfield and then run quarterback draws, jet sweeps, and that proved to be effective. So it was a completely different approach offensively, but it worked.
It certainly did work. Coach Harris likes the ogre. We started doing that earlier in the year, say 10-yard line. If we get down to the opposing team's 10-yard line, he would go to that package. 2 big backs that he puts in there. Originally started with linemen, but he's got 1 lineman, another running back that wears a 38 thing. He plays a defensive lineman, and putting a back there. And that's Whaley, who's a pretty good-sized back himself, and we just pound. Maybe should have used that a little bit more in the Fulton game in the second half. But last week he's now started using that more at the 30-yard line, at the 20-yard line, trying to get an offensive push up front. It's designed to be a short distance goal line thing, 3 downs, 3 yards, cloud of dust, and let's see if we can find the goal line. He likes doing that, but also last week I think we might have thrown the ball a lot more than we had been throwing the ball too. But Gatlinburg-Pittman, a lot of pressure from their front 3 or 4 or 5. I don't think that they blitzed a whole lot. They opened in a 3-4, switched to a 4-3. I think that was to get more pressure up front, and it did work. Brady flushed out of the pocket a lot against GP. I thought he pulled the ball down early enough really to run and to find the extra yards. Sometimes they envelop him and he can't get free. But I felt he done a good job pulling it out. And basically, we put up what should have been 21 points. We missed the extra point attempt. We could have had 21 points. And, that shows you that we're working against a good teams. And I do feel that Gatlinburg-Pittman, the best, second best on our schedule. Anderson County, the best coming up this week.
So, yes, we just talked about Oneida facing the best single-A team in East Tennessee this week. Scott High is facing the best 4A team in East Tennessee this week as well. We're going to talk about those games. Hold that thought. We'll talk about those games and more when we come back. We're just getting started on the roundtable. Welcome back to the roundtable on the IH Sports Network. We're just getting started from El Rey. A lot more to come, so if you're in the area, you'd like to stop by and join us, please feel free to do so. If you're hungry, the kitchen's wide open. Lorenzo and his crew will take care of you tonight. Alongside Tim Smith, Rick Keaton, I'm Ben Garrett. Thank you for joining us tonight. Guys, we talked about Friday night's games where our teams are concerned. Now let's broaden this perspective a little bit and look at what happened elsewhere in the region. And, Rick, I'll start over here. Of course, Gatlinburg defeated Scott High 51-20. Anderson County, this week's opponent, very tough game against Bearden, as we knew it would be. Bearden's a very good football team. They got the win 35-28. Gibbs falls to Clinton in a high-scoring game, 53-50.
That went to overtime too, did it not?
In overtime, yep. Yes. Farragut defeating Fulton, 63-24. Carter defeating South Doyle, 47-13. So among those scores, what jumps out at you?
Carter over South Doyle. High-scoring Gibbs team. I mean, they have the ability, I think, to go out there and score some points. They've been doing it all season long. Interesting scenario. We said it after the ball game the other night. if you look at it on paper, who I think will win out this week, who will win and stuff, you're sitting there with second, third, and fourth place, all with, 3-2 records.
Yes.
And I think that's probably what will happen. So it might be very interesting how they're going to battle it out. And the second tiebreaker, I think, is total wins.
Correct, yes.
You've got to look at that. So I feel that's what's going to happen. Total wins will dictate who's going to be the second team, third team, fourth team. The third and fourth teams, guess where you're going? First round of the playoffs, number 4 is going to Greenville. Number 3 is going to Elizabethton. Elizabethton, most recently, 2 consecutive state championships. Oh, wait a minute. Greenville had 2 consecutive state championships right before that. So you're going up there, and from, depends on where you're traveling from. It can be an hour-and-a-half trip to a 2.5 or a 3-hour trip to get up there. So, been to both of them. Love both places. We like to say that Elizabethton built a whole new complex after we played them the first time in the playoffs up there. I think it was in the plan, though, already that they were going to do that. But we got to go back the second year and play them again. I think we lost 21-14 up there. And I was thinking, man, we want to go up against them one more time. We'll beat them the next time we play them. It's a good thing we didn't. That's what you've got to look forward to, and that's where I see the region stacking up.
And if for that to happen, Carter's got to beat Fulton, which very conceivable.
Very
I think that's going to, like you, I think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Carter is playing very well. Fulton is a team that's got a good offense, but they don't play much defense, and so that could happen. Now, there is another scenario. If South Dole were to manage to beat Gibbs, and it's been a disappointing season for South Dole, but if they can beat Gibbs, then you're potentially setting up a huge mess to figure out who's going to get in the playoffs, and somebody's going to be left out. So it's interesting to say the least this week.
South Dole could be the monkey wrench in the whole thing, and South Dole, I'm quite well sure that this is not the season they envisioned way back in August.
Definitely not. And we've talked about it before, but most of us thought that they would probably be,
I thought they'd be the 2 or 3.
2 or 3, exactly. Yep. All right. So, Tim, Oneida gets a win over Sequoia, 27-19. Let me throw some other scores at you. You tell me what stands out to you. Rockwood over McMinn Central. I thought that was a good win for the Tigers, by the way, and Coach John Webb. 49-39. Clay County putting it to York, 44-14. Wartburg gets a big win, 50-6 over Sunbright, and Monterey defeats Bledsoe County in a close one, 36-28. And so the status quo remains the status quo in Region 2. Not any shakeup in the standings, and of course there wouldn't be. None of those were region games, but the teams that you would expect to win, for the most part, won. So what's your takeaway from this?
Well, I think those are good wins, like you said, for Rockwood and Monterey. In this 9th week of the season, that's a good win for both of them. I think for York, it's concerning, obviously, unless we hear the story that Coach Derwin Wright just played his B team to wait and get ready for Rockwood. This is a concerning thing, I would think. And he does play Rockwood this Friday night. So, if you're Rockwood, if you can win this game Friday night, you're the region champ. No, I'm sorry. Monterey's the region champ. And then you're second because you've got the head-to-head with Monterey. So what that says is if you win this game Friday night, then you'll play the winner of Oneida Hampton, which, you would think out of the other side, it's Hampton and the other 3. You'd rather play any of the other 3. So, bracketology really plays into this. It's going to be interesting to see where that falls because the longer you can stay away from the Bulldogs, the Indians are going to have them first, right? And so barring the upset from Oneida, that's the team from that other side that you don't want to mess with. You probably take your chances with one of the other. If you can finish 1 and 3 in our region, that means you'll deal with one of those other teams that you know something about. So maybe that's too convoluted, but that's what comes to my mind. You ask me what comes to my mind when I look at that, that's what it is.
And so just to expand on what you're mentioning there, the region standings going into this final week, York is 3-0, Monterey and Rockwood are both 2-1, and Oneida is 1-3. So we know Oneida is going to be 4th, but that's the only thing we know at this point,
right.
And everything else hinges on that York-Rockwood game on Friday night. And I'm going to tell you, if we didn't have games to go to, that would be a game to go to, because that should be a dandy. Should be a close game. Should go, I would think, deep into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, York coming off this very disappointing loss, and Rockwood, with really a lot to play for there. So it's going to be interesting to see. Monterey, was sitting back hoping Rockwood can win that game because it'll get them a region championship.
Yeah. So a couple other scores to throw out. This week's opponent, Coalfield, they defeated Oliver Springs 50-0. And then you mentioned Hampton and the first round playoff destination for the Indians. They defeat Unaka 36-0, which I actually thought was a little bit low. So what do you think? Is Hampton maybe resting a little bit?
Hampton's fine. Are we talking about Coalfield now? Is that where we're
talking about whatever you want
or is that at the end of the
Go
thing?
ahead.
So yeah, Coalfield coming up this week. So here's a little spoiler for the folks that are watching tonight. Some statistics that you'll hear. Coalfield and Oneida are going to play for the 78th time this Friday night, and that's accepting a no contest that happened a couple of years ago when they weren't able to get together and play. So that's by far the most played opponent,
right.
Oneida all time. So I'm gonna wait to see if Jason Terry or Jacob King can answer this trivia question when they come up. Who is the team that Oneida's played the second most? Coalfield is 78 times. This other team we've played 60 times.
I know the answer.
Well, that's not going to help them.
I'm not going to tell them.
Yeah. So, but I mean, here's the other thing about that. Oneida and Coalfield. It used to be, it was a rivalry for a long time, but it was kind of a one-sided rivalry for many years. Coalfield got two big wins in 1990 and 1991, and then of course the '92 state championship team had the end of that. But now, since 2000, something people may not realize, that since 2000, there's been 21 matchups between these two teams, and Oneida has won 8 and Coalfield has won 13. And the Yellow Jackets have just really had the upper hand in this century in this one. So they certainly appear to have that upper hand, swinging big coming into Friday night with the way they've been playing. So I think Oneida certainly is capable. But we saw a slow start this past week against Sequoia. That's unacceptable against a Coalfield team. If you're going to compete or beat this team, you're going to have a full 4 quarters, which is something that if we do that, it'd probably be the first time we did that this year.
Yep. All right, we'll talk more about that Oneida Coalfield game and the Scott High Anderson County game later in the show. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears, bring in Jason Terry, and talk about the Indians middle school hopes for a state championship, a region championship, I don't know what you call it, but an Area 2 championship coming up this Saturday. Welcome back to the Roundtable on the IH Sports Network, live from El Rey. I'm Ben Garrett alongside Tim Smith, Rick Keaton, and now joining us, Jason Terry, the head coach of the Oneida Middle School Indians, as Oneida chases a championship, an Area 2 championship on Saturday. Campbell County High School, the opponent's going to be Wartburg. Before Tim takes off and grills you, because I know he's got a list of questions for you, tell me, the last time Oneida won this game, the state championship game, because that's what most people refer to it as. Even though it's really a district championship, people call it a state championship. So the last time Oneida won in this championship game?
It would have been 4 years ago, the juniors' 8th grade year.
Okay.
So it's been a little bit.
Is that my cue?
That's your cue.
All right. So the game's going to be taking place Saturday at Campbell County. And as I think you've mentioned, we're going to have that broadcast. We're going to have a live stream of that Saturday, so we're excited to do that. Hope the kids are excited about that. We've talked to you many times. I don't think we've gotten into any of the specifics of any of the kids. So let's take just a few minutes and talk about some of the players themselves. And I mean, not to elevate somebody over another, but just, as you progress through this season, what's a couple of players that maybe people didn't realize they were going to be as impressed with before the season, and they really come on this season kind of out of nowhere? There may have been some that were expected, but who are the unexpected surprises coming in this year?
Well, I've said this every time I think I've been on this show, but there was a lot of question marks with the offensive line this year. And I think, Braxton Boshears, Kay Chambers, Colton Bird, Brylan Strunk, Jacob Reagan, they really worked hard in the offseason this year and elevated their game. They bought into what we were selling, and they worked at it, and they really elevated. Not to say that they weren't great players to begin with, but, it was a question mark for me. Braden Lou Allen, Elijah Strunk, Both of my tight ends, defensive ends, really worked hard and really impressed me this year. So I could go down the line, Tim, to be honest with you. It just seems like this team has really, really put in the work, and I hope they can reap the benefits of that work.
So is it like the cliche they say it all starts at the line on both sides? Is that where it's come from this year for you guys?
It does in my book, yes. The game on Saturday, just like every game we played thus far, is won or lost on the offense and defensive line. That's just – and I tell those kids all the time, and I hate it, you know, they're never going to have their name in their paper with 3 touchdowns or whatever, and they're never going to catch a big bomb. But anybody that knows anything about football knows, you know, hey, Cotenberg just made a heck of a block that was key in Xander doing what he does, or Cade made a block that bust Co out. No, it's just it starts with those guys, and we preach it and we teach it and we make a big deal out of it. Kennan can't throw the ball if he's laying on his back, so it's a big deal to us.
So you've just had, though, this year just incredible starts, incredible domination most games that you've gone through. It didn't start out that way with this last one, though, against Dayton City, right? It was a little bit – I mean, for your all standards, it was a little bit slow.
I don't have the stats in front of me. I look at them. Bo Kidd does a phenomenal job getting them to me immediately after the game, but we've scored a roughly 80 points in the first quarter compared to 12 of our opponents. So fast start has been a MO for us. Yeah, last week it didn't happen. I don't know if it's nerves. I don't know exactly what it was, right, because, you know, we preached all week. There is no tomorrow if you don't win this game. We take up equipment the next day. So I don't know if they was a little nervous or what. If I was a little nervous, bad play and calling on my part, and that's okay. But, yeah, we started a little slow, but they turned it around.
Yeah, and the final was what?
We won.
You won.
Something to 12. I'll be honest with you, I never even hardly look at the scoreboard as long as we're ahead.
All right, so now you've played Wartburg already this year. This is the team you'll face this Saturday, and you handle Wartburg pretty handily, but that's never a guarantee the next time around. In fact, that gives the team a lot of times, I'm sure they're going back and thinking about every little mistake they made that they could have done differently, and that'll be their plan this week, and they're hoping you're going to go in taking them lightly. How do you prevent that?
Oh, we're preaching it at practice all day today. You know, you're right. We did play well against them the first game. I think they were going through some growing pains at the time. Coach Tinker and his staff, they do an outstanding job. I'm a big fan of Peyton's, but I knew they'd turn it around. I told him to keep his head up. They get it going, and they have. They got some key pieces in some key places. They're excited. They've never been here before. You know, so they're excited. They're going to come to work every week. There's not going to have to be no pepping them up this week. They're ready. So, yeah, my kids, we've told them all week or today and throughout the weekend, you know, you better come to play because this is not the same Wartburg team you played 5 weeks ago.
What did Wartburg do so well that sprung them to this championship game, and is that the thing that you're focusing on that you have to stop them from doing?
Well, I think they're very balanced. They got a little quarterback. He can throw it. Several good receivers. In my opinion, you know, they moved some kids around that looked like maybe the week after we played them, and it seemed to fit what their philosophy and what they wanted to do more. So they've got a couple nice receivers, great running backs, a kid that can throw it, and a big line that'll get on you. So they've got all the pieces.
You're talking about the fast starts, and if those don't happen, middle school games go so fast. If you've not been to one, I mean, they speed by, and that magnifies plays and possessions and mistakes. You know, what's the key as a coach? What have you found that works best to prevent those mistakes from happening in a game?
It's just preparation during the week. You know, every drill, every rep matters. We preach to our kids, get better every rep, every day. Be better today or tomorrow than we was today. So we rep it all week. We try to do the right things. And I think getting off to a fast, one of the keys to getting it is a little momentum. You know, like you said, 8-minute quarters, even though I've lobbied, I mean, I think it should be 10 minutes. And I understand all the safety protocols and the reasons why. I understand it. But, you know, like you said, I've had teams where I didn't touch the ball for a quarter. And kudos to them. That's a great game plan. But we got to come out fast and we got to come out aggressive. Again, whoever's the most aggressive on that offensive defensive line, I think will be holding that trophy at the end of the day.
I've got a couple of hypotheticals for
Okay.
you now. So I watch football games on TV, and if I'm not the one announcing it, I'll actually listen to the announcers. I turn it down if I'm on. But I hear them say all the time, "Oh, who has a play for 3rd and 18?" What if it's 6-6 and it's 3rd and 18? You're at your 30-yard line. Do you have a play for that?
I have a set of plays that I think that are options. To say I have that one just go-to play, no, I don't. But I have a sheet that I look at, and it kind of tells me what I think might be good that week.
Based on the team and what they're showing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Based on film study. My wife can tell you, I mean, I took a little time to watch Tennessee play for 3 or 4 hours today, but besides that, I was in front of a computer most of the week again. So,
Okay, I got one more.
okay.
So it's 4 minutes to go, and you have a 4th down and 1 at the 50. Tie game. Are you a punt it and put it in your defense's hands guy, or do you have the play to get it done?
We're going for it. We got it.
Okay, I'm going to remember this because
Okay.
we're calling the game Saturday, and so now you can't make the other choice. I'm going to say he promised me he'd
I
go
know
for
you.
it.
I don't think.
I'm not asking you what you're running.
I don't know if you was there the other night. I mean, I tell the kids, everything is on the table. We faked a punt the other night. Momentum wasn't in our favor. We weren't playing very well. I think we were actually down 6-0 at the time. They struck first. And I just felt at that moment that, this is the time we got to make something happen. And it did. And it seemed like it sparked us a little bit. So sometimes a big hit. Cole Meredith come up the other night, played a heck of a defensive game where he really rattled some kids and played well, as all of them did. But we'll see what happens.
Can I ask one more? Have I
Absolutely.
got time? So was there a moment, and it may have been week 1, I don't know, but was there a moment this year when you in your mind thought, yeah, okay, this is going to be the year that I think we can do this? You're here, you're in the championship game. When did you think, I think we're really going to do this?
I never thought for a second, you don't take that for granted that you can get to this point or that you could have a chance. But in June, my kids came to work. We try to go those 3 weeks before dead period. We go a couple days a week. We lift. We go out on the field and do what we're legally allowed to do, passing the ball around. And I think I had, besides a couple on vacation on certain weeks, I had 95% attendance. And I was like, this team's bought in. So we come out in fall camp. Man, pretty good month there. And then as we got going, I knew there would always be mistakes and things we'd have to correct through every week, but they just came to work every week. And that's when I knew, hey, we might have a chance to do something.
Who's your assistant coaches? Give us them their responsibilities.
Okay. Well, you got Brent Shoemaker, Coach Shoemaker. He handles the wide receivers, rotating people in and out, great route runners. Got Corey Lay. He does linebackers for me, does a great job with them. We got a good little system going right now on rotations and stuff. Coach Meredith, he coaches DBs and running backs. And then Coach Birch, he's the D coordinator, D-line, offensive line guy.
The guy that helped to bring those lines together.
Exactly.
Well, that's no surprise, is it?
Hey, it's not a big secret that I begged with all I had in me. We were, when you coach middle school, a lot of times they're volunteer assistants and stuff. And, like Benji and Trev and those guys, they did great. They love it. But they have jobs. They got careers and futures they got to think about. And middle school football, and they're in the booth for me on Thursday nights, so they're still a part. But I was looking for answers, and I was like, Birch, come on. And he was in a point in his life where he could come. And I think, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think he's really enjoyed his time, and I know he's been great for my kids and for me. It's been phenomenal. Because Birch has been doing this for 42 years.
Yeah.
He's forgot more than I'll ever know. So that was a huge pickup. But all my guys are hard workers. They work countless hours. It makes my life a lot easier.
Well, I think one thing I learned from the interviews with Coach Woods, you can never underestimate the power of a middle school coach in somebody's life. And Oneida's been so fortunate through football and continuing with you to have such a line of great middle school football coaches. So good luck Saturday. I'll see you there.
Appreciate you. Thank you. We'll need it.
All right, Oneida versus Wartburg, Campbell County High School, Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock start time. If you can be there in person, get out and support the Indians. If you can't be there in person, Tim and his crew will have the live play-by-play. 3 o'clock Saturday. Coach Terry, good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we've got Jacob King is with us, but we're going to make him hold on for just a second, and we're going to talk some more football. Welcome back to the Roundtable on the IH Sports Network, live from El Rey. I'm Ben Garrett alongside Tim Smith, Rick Keaton. Thank you for joining us, and now we're joined by Oneida football player John Selby, Scout High football player Hugo Henry. Now, this is usually the segment where we have our First National Bank players of the game on. Those guys were unable to make it this week. You guys, thank you, first of all, for sliding in here. John was our Trophy Masters lineman of the game for this, I think the second time this season.
He was in the
Friday
debate.
night.
I mean, we usually have like 2-3 names we're throwing around there, and I mean, such a strong performance Friday night. And if you had a year-long award, I'm not so sure it wouldn't be John. You know what I'm saying?
I have another point to make there when we come
sorry.
back to you, but because Hugo Henry likes the attention, so we're going to start over here with him. Yeah. But coming back to you in just a moment. But Hugo was not the lineman of the game, obviously, because he's a little guy. But first of all, I'm going to say Hugo has taken a lot of abuse because he's here every week, and we throw jabs at him or whatnot, and he's taken it well. So Hugo, you were also, as I'm sitting there watching the game on Friday, I'm one vote. Okay, I don't get to make the call.
Yeah.
I'm one vote out of several. But early on, I'm thinking this is a candidate for player of the game here. Let's start with the onside kick to start the game, and I'm going to let Rick take it from here. But I want to start with that onside kick because it was perfectly executed, and really the second one was too.
Yeah.
But talk about the decision to go for the onside kick and executing that.
Well, this week in practice, the first day Coach Harris was like, we're going to call this bonsai, and it's the bunch formation like you've seen. And he said, just kick it in the biggest gap you see. And Gallenberg Pittman, they just happened to line up really wide so I could kick it right down the middle. And it just worked out perfectly that first moment, that first kickoff of the game.
So
and you followed the ball. I mean, you were right there.
The only reason I didn't catch it is because when it bounced up on that second bounce, it hit a player's helmet. And I was ready to do this, and it just died, so I didn't get to catch it. But we recovered it, so that was good.
It was certainly good. Coach has gone up with many onside kicks this year.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to do it at whether it be first quarter or fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But he has done that quite a bit. And also he's worked extensively, I think, this year on those squibs, the pooches. He's let you kick deep a couple of times, but most of the time it's going to be the short kickoffs.
Yeah. After the comments on the show last week, on Monday we actually got to kick, and on all my kickoffs I kicked them in the end zone. Just, I guess, motivation. I don't know. But, yeah, and it was actually questioned to kick it deep, but we decided to go with the onside instead. So, yeah.
Almost got another one on the next kick, too.
Yeah. If we would have scored again, we actually planned on hiding the guy on the sideline and kind of pooching it on the other way and tried to get it like that instead of going straight in front of us for the onside.
Between Coach Harris and Coach Wright, they have came up with a few, I don't want to say exotic, but they've came up with a few ways to try to kick the ball off. I mean, and they've asked you to do a lot to be precise with those kicks.
Yeah. I remember the South Dual game when we recovered that one. That was one of the more difficult ones. And the Cofield one, too. I don't know if that was the first play of the game or not. I can't remember.
Yeah, that had to go over the front line and land next to the sideline. Yeah. Both of those did.
Yeah, that one was a little bit more difficult than the other
We never
ones.
like to talk with a kicker about the missed extra point. Was it blocked, or did you just sort of mishit that one?
I think I mishit it. I could, blame other people or the holder or whatever, but I really think that one was probably on me. And I hung my head when I went to the sideline, but, after we started driving down the other way on that next possession or two, I realized that I had to, get my head up and try to hit the other one and improve on it.
Well, you left no doubt. I mean, you kicked that one.
Yeah.
The third one, you kicked that one plumb over the field house, and maybe over on the practice field it went so far. I mean, that's aggressively coming back and atoning for anything that might have been a mistake. How have you liked this senior season so far? How's it gone for the? Well, we know the team with the Ophir type record, but the teammates that you have and the camaraderie that you seem to have and the I don't know what word to really use, but it's a very loose bunch of kids at practice.
Like a brotherhood? Is that?
Well, it's a brotherhood, but I mean you're real relaxed, you're real loose at practice.
Me?
The team as a whole, yeah. And you're part of the team, and you participate in part of that. Slapping the backs and having a good time.
After we realized, that obviously we wouldn't be able to make the playoffs, it was just kind of like improving our own games individually and as a team, and not just for this year but next year as well for us juniors like me, Alton, and Rylan and the rest of those juniors, trying to craft our game better for the upcoming year.
I probably should not say this, but I've talked to Coach Harris, and he has told me on more than one occasion, out of all the colleges that he's coached at and high school experience that he has, that he's enjoyed this group of Highlanders more than any group he's ever been around.
He's made that comment to us as well multiple times, and I truly think that he believes that, because after the game on Friday, even though we lost, he tried to have a more uplifting spirit towards the players and not yell at us as much, because we did better that second half than we did the first half, and he focused more on that as the bad things.
Well, he's had a chance to do that, and it seems like every week I say up there in the booth, we've got to come out, got to win the second half.
Yeah.
And to the players' credit, coaching staff's credit, we've been able to do that in quite a few games, and short of the extra point, it would have been a 14-14 effort in the second half between the two teams. But not picking on you, these things happen. I mean, Coach says all the time, hey, when you throw the ball, what's the three things that can happen? You're part of the receiving corps. So the three things that can happen are
you can catch it, you can drop it, or
the other team
can catch it.
Yeah. I mean, so those are the three things. He works on that a lot, and he likes to see good hands. And you've been able to get a lot of time at the wide receiver position, running a few jet sweeps, and there was a couple. I won't say back when you were a freshman, I thought, I'm not sure he'll ever make it as a receiver, but that is part of your hard work, and especially when it comes to hard work, the kicking camps that you go to improve your ability to be able to boot the football. I commend you for the effort that you put into it, and yes, your father, because he hauls you to all those things.
He does, yeah. Dad's one of the main reasons that, I am where I am now in the kicking game. I actually kicked today because it was a JV game, and so the coaches left, and I kicked for a little bit on my own, and some of the players were there, and they usually catch my balls for me. But I kicked a little bit by myself today. So.
Long was?
I hit my new personal best. I hit a 60-yarder.
There you go. Pretty impressed.
Now, Hugo, I got to ask you, because last week Alton, he zinged you pretty good, and of course we were high-fiving him for that. We enjoyed that. So when you went out this week, no, Rick didn't. Rick's a nice guy. He's not a jerk like I am. But so you went out in practice this week and you were nailing that ball into the end zone. Did you turn around to Alton and say, "I got you player of the game right here"?
No, not really. Being Eric Henry's son, I kind of had to let comments like that roll off my back, and being different to those comments a long time ago.
So all right. So you mentioned you had a 60-yard field goal today in practice, and you've got that ability. I mean, you can hit the long one. You really haven't gotten an opportunity to show off that ability. You've been remarked now since Rick keyed in on the missed extra point Friday. I don't know that I don't have the statistics in front of me, but you've been really accurate on extra points so far this year.
I haven't missed one, besides the one last week, obviously.
So, but you haven't gotten an opportunity to show off your leg on field goals.
I've only kicked one actual field goal. I think it was like a 16-yarder. It was a short field goal. It wasn't
so
very
do
long.
You secretly, when the ball gets on the plus side of the 50, are you sitting there secretly hoping this thing stall out so I get a shot?
If I'm not in, then I'm kicking in the net on the sideline, just trying to get my leg ready. But yeah, secretly, I mean, you always want that opportunity, so you can, if you miss it, you can improve on that opportunity before you make it, then you can get better on that opportunity too.
All right, Hugo Henry. Now, ordinarily we would say stick around because we're going to come back to you,
yeah.
but you got to get to church.
I do,
So
yeah.
we're going to let Hugo slide out. Good luck against Anderson
Thank
County
you.
on Friday as you guys get set to close out the season.
Thank you.
All right, we'll slide around here to John Selby and to Tim Smith. And Tim made the point a moment ago that you were in the running for player of the game Friday night. So I'm going to tell you what your quarterback said today, because I don't think you would mind me sharing this. So Caden, who was the player of the game, he texted me just a few hours ago and said he was unable to make it. You would have been the logical fill-in, if I can use that word for him, because you were the offensive lineman of the game. But what he's told us was, he said, if you're going to find someone else, please look at John Selby, because he said honestly he deserved to be the player of the game. So there you go.
And I think Caden and John fall into the same category in this. In that you see them doing things every week, and you kind of come to expect it from them. And so you find that somebody who's out of the norm in their performance that week, and then sometimes you take for granted what you guys do each week.
Yeah.
But I mean, John, every week it's almost every week it's double-digit tackles, and I do remember looking at the statistics that Bo put together before we went into Friday night's game. I was just perusing those, and I saw that Oneida, I think, on the year through 8 games, had about 6 tackles for loss as a team. John had 4.5 Friday night against Sequoia. It was a slow start against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And Oneida's had some good games and had some bad games. Tell me this: when Oneida is winning, what's working well?
What's working well, we all stay fired up. We're all trying to go around, hype each other up, make sure we're doing good. And then, we just, once we start getting to the offensive section, we just try to do our best. Just try to stay fired up between it. Every play, just try to do our best.
Is there something that you could put your finger on or describe that happens when Oneida's not going well? What's one of those things that doesn't seem to be going right?
Probably our running game. Our run game, we struggle on that sometimes. Sometimes we might miss a block in there. Probably it's one of the keys is our run game. We need to work on that a lot more.
So now it was pretty good on Friday night.
Yeah, on Friday it was.
Yeah, so
A lot better than it was.
Caden did a nice job on reading the option there and for running for some big touchdown runs. Now tell me, for you play both sides, and is there one you prefer over the other one?
Probably defense.
Why is that?
Well, when I was younger, I played when I played on offense, I played running back. So ever since I got switched to lineman in middle school, I just ain't really liked it since then. But
really,
when I started playing defense, I loved it more. Just started getting more tackles, sacks. They're fun to get especially when you hit somebody else.
So I asked Levi about this a couple of weeks ago, but I mean, you seem so confident in your play. Who is the coach that makes you confident that you're executing properly?
Probably Coach Martin. Coach Martin hangs out. He makes sure we do everything good. He's always telling us to come after practice, look at stuff, always posting stuff during the day, every day, make sure we're looking at it. Probably Coach Martin.
And are you a different person on the field than you are sitting right here? I mean, because you're calm and you're nice right here.
Yeah.
Are you just a nasty guy to the other team on the field? What's that like?
Yeah. When I'm outside, when I'm out in the world, I don't talk much. I'm to myself. But when I'm on the field, I'm giving it. I give it to everybody.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Do you talk after you make a big play?
Sometimes I just get up, roll off, and just don't say much. Just go back to the huddle.
Does it depend on if they've talked to you before?
Oh yeah. If they've probably said something, I might say something in there. Just make sure the ref don't hear it.
Is there a team that was more chirpy this year than others? So far through 9.
It'd probably be Rockwood.
Yeah.
Rockwood was a lot chirpy. Sequoia was too. They were chirpy and dirty as well, but we just fought through it.
Yeah. So down 6-0 at half. You go in the locker room. What's that like? What was the talk?
Coach May set us all down and told us this wasn't us. This was not us first quarter. We don't know. We all weren't playing good. Nobody was playing good. We all were just not doing our jobs, doing our assignments. We come out second half. Coach May talked to us. Coach Martin did, and they were telling us just to fire us up. We got to get ready. We just can't do this like we used to, like in the first quarter. So we come out second half and just played what we did, how we used to.
Is there somebody that maybe hadn't been recognized by Player of the Week or Lineman of the Week, or that we're missing that you feel does so well they deserve some recognition, that they're in there working hard every day, that maybe should get a little more publication about what they're doing?
I'll probably have to go with
You're really putting him on the spot.
I hit you with a tough one.
Yeah,
You
that's
think
a tough
you think about. I'm coming back to it, John. I'm coming back to it. But now you're a senior,
Mhm.
and this team's loaded with seniors. I mean, I was looking at this. You know, the
Six.
line, the receiving core. I mean, there's a lot of guys that aren't going to be on that field next year as Oneida Indians. So, is there one of those seniors that hasn't gotten the recognition that maybe they should?
Probably Colton Darty.
Yeah.
You know, he does good. You know, he's almost every day, almost there every day of practice. You know, he works hard. He does his best.
Both sides of the
Both
ball.
sides of the ball. You know.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of is like a safety blanket there for Caden. Sometimes good big target on offense.
Yeah, then he comes in there and rotates in on like the defense side of the ball for me, or and they might rotate him in that linebacker. You know.
He doesn't care to deliver a hit either, does he?
No, Colton don't.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a good one. Now we found a good one. Have you thought yet about? I mean, senior night, Friday night. You're guaranteed 2 more games. It's going to take some work to play more than that. Have you thought about this jersey, putting it on 2 more times? Maybe. Yeah. I mean,
I really don't want to yet. You know, I just want to keep playing. But you know, you get to that point where you can't. You know, to your senior season where you got to figure out where if you're going to play or not. You got to just do what you got to do.
I think the answer to this goes for both this Friday and for that playoff game. But the answer, I want you to think about, if this happens, then we win when we play Coalfield. We win when we play Hampton, and we don't have to take that jersey off so soon. What is that thing? What goes in that blank if what happens?
Are you saying like if it does happen?
Yeah,
like
if this particular thing happens, then we're going to beat Coalfield. We're going to beat Hampton. This is what we need.
I guess we just keep going at it. Just look at it on to the next week. Just keep going week from week from week, and just keep pushing ourselves.
Is there a player that growing up, as you watched the Indians, was there a player that was like a mentor to you that you looked up to that kind of took you under their wing? And
Probably Bear.
Yeah.
You know,
and give us his name.
My God.
Okay, that's fine, Bear.
I know he used to play for Oneida. That's all I used to know.
Okay. How old were you?
I was probably about 6'5".
So we're talking about Bear that wore 13?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think I remember time I passed the mile marker in McCreary County that says Oneida 13 because that was his number. Bear.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. And the name escapes me as well, John, so didn't do very good there. So that's the Indian you watch going. Are you doing the same? Are you going to some of the younger players on the team? Are you being a mentor for them, building them up?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'll go down and look at Brady Burke. He's a big old freshman. You got Jackson, Big Day Chiefs fan. He's a big guy too.
Yeah.
Big old freshman. Jesse Zachary, another one. He's a big freshman. I usually talk to him a lot. Make sure he does his job. Make sure he just does everything right. Keep him calm. Take him under my wing.
These guys got what it takes to be special one day.
Oh yeah, for sure. If they just keep working at it, for sure they do.
All right, now John, senior, where do you want to be a year from right now? What are you going to be doing?
From now, I'm probably going to be welding.
Yeah. Are you already taking classes, dual enrollment?
Yeah. No, I'm doing vocational.
Yeah.
At,
Chris Chambers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're going to be a good welder if you're listening to Chris Chambers. I can tell you that. All right, John. Anybody you want to shout out to and say hey to before we go?
I'd like to shout out to my mom. Shout out to Coach May. Y'all need to bring Coach May out.
Well, we'll invite him. We'll see what he does. He doesn't like me very much.
Hey.
But nobody does. I mean,
hey,
you showed up, right?
Listen, all you got to do is just ask him. He might.
Okay, we're going to try to do that. And we know he's busy during the season, but we were talking about that just before we went on. We were talking about maybe trying to get him on, here at the end of the season sometime, when we can just sit down and talk with him. But, John, I will ask, I promise. If I tell him John told me to ask, you think he'll say yes?
Oh, yeah, sure.
All right.
Just tell him that.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
All right.
All right, John Selby, our Trophy Masters lineman of the game from Oneida. And by the way, Rick, let's throw out the Trophy Masters lineman of the game from Scott High was Adrian Stanley. And give him some recognition. That was also his second time this season. Both of those guys, John Selby and Adrian Stanley, have been very consistent performers this year. All right, when we come back, we're going to switch gears, slide in Jacob King, and talk about some Oneida basketball right after this. Welcome back to the Roundtable on the IH Sports Network as we begin hour number 2 from El Rey. Alongside Tim Smith, voice of the Indians, Rick Keaton, voice of the Highlanders. I'm Ben Garrett. and he is Jacob King, Oneida High School basketball coach, men's basketball coach. Coach King, we were just talking a little bit during the break, Rick Keaton was, and I know Tim's going to get to it, high expectations for the Indians this season. So just talk about it, and I'm going to turn this over to Tim, but I want to ask you up front, did the way last season end leave a bitter disappointment in your mouth, a bitter taste of disappointment, and has that fueled you and your team during the offseason?
I know it has. We got in the district tournament and had 2 starters that didn't get to play. One was sick, the other one had an ankle sprain, and still came so close to pulling that out. It had been an upset. I mean, they were the better team that night, but and then getting to the region semifinals and the game before, losing our big post player, who I thought could give McCullen, be physical with him, and then not having him and losing and not getting to the goal that we wanted to get to last year. And I think it's not only fueled me, it's fueled my other coaches, it's fueled the players. It's just, but this year we've talked about it, just doing one game at a time, not looking too far ahead. I've talked about our goals to get to state tournament. Well, sure, that's it. But sometimes we overlook the steps to get there, and we want to take it one game at a time.
All right, so I've got my list and I've got Mark's list. I'm going to start with my list.
Why don't you start with Mark?
No, I don't want to do that. Remember, that's why Coach May doesn't like me. Your staff this coming year, tell us who your assistants are and what their responsibilities are.
Tori Slavin, he's been my assistant ever since I've come back. He's in charge of in practice. He will be when we do position development. He works with the guards. He's the guy that does our weightlifting program. He's done a great job. And then I've got Coach Pike, Jason Pike. He's in charge of my defense, my pressing. He also takes care of the bigs when we go in position development and practice. And I've got a great staff. I've got some guys that I can trust. If I'm not there, for some reason I'm not ever at practice, we'll be fine. It'll never miss a beat. And they make me the coach that I am. Them and the players, it's my assistants and my staff.
All right. Mark's question. Are you taking a school bus or are you going to get a charter to the state?
No,
we're not going
you don't
have to answer that one. Oh, let's go back to mine.
Okay.
What are your expectations? Team goals, what are they?
Like always, Tim, when I said I took this back over was get us back to where we were in the 90s when I got to play and got to go to state tournaments. We got there once and we didn't get a go because of COVID. And I tell you what, that took a lot out of me. I think it took a lot out of the players for the next year because I thought we had a great shot to get back, but the drive just wasn't there. Our expectations is to win our district, win a region, get a sub-state game at home, and if we win that, go to the state tournament. But it's not going to be easy. We got 3 seniors, and I got a bunch of juniors. These juniors have played a lot of basketball. That's my core of that junior and senior class. I've got some sophomores and freshmen that can play some sparingly. Maybe one that plays a whole lot. But right now, I think we've got to take it one game at a time.
I have a question about a concern I would have because, we're not kidding. You have a lot of great players that have a great ability, and there's only so many minutes in the game. How do you manage that? With that number that can contribute to keep a solidarity, to gel them together, to me that would be as hard a job as any for this team that you've got coming in.
Well, I think about with this team right here, I think if you go down and ask each and every one of them in private, they don't care who scores the most points. All they want to do is win. And that junior class has played together since they were my son's age, at 8, 9, 10-year-old. So they know how to play with each other. I don't think there's no egos that it's all about me. I think it's all about team. And, and as far as coaching, I guess it's more of a feeling how things are going in the game, who plays, who don't play, what we need. Some might be better at defense. Maybe I need offense. I go to somebody else. But I think overall these guys they bond and gel so well together, and it's about winning. It ain't about who gets the most points or anything like that.
Of course, health would be a factor in this. But, are you I've got my 5 starters. Here's my 5 on opening day, and it's probably going to be my 5 through the year. or do you tinker with the lineup again if there's no injuries? How do you view that?
Man, I don't know.
These are tough questions. I know. I'm just curious though.
I mean, I could start a different lineup 2 or 3 nights. If we played 3 games one week, I could start a different lineup all 3 nights. You know, it's just, I guess whoever's playing the best, whoever's shooting the ball the best. I mean, what 5 worked better, I guess. And you know, back when I played for Coach Hall, he always had a thing when he subbed, he felt like he got better. You understand it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we got opportunity to do that with how deep we can go. We might be able to sub sometimes and actually get better.
And I've seen people have a 5 and a 5, and they just rotate that and let them compete, you know, based on what they do. No, you're not doing that.
I don't think we'll do that.
Right.
No Shay Shannon.
No. I think, well, sometimes I think that you can get in the flow and then take that group out and lose momentum.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Now, if we're not getting momentum, I may switch 5. I've done it before, but it's not something that I'm going to do on a rotation, though.
Who's going to be the biggest pain in the district?
I mean, we got a new coach at Cofield, Coach Hines, the Sunbright coach.
Carmen Hines, for those that don't know. She's been to the state with the girls.
And his son will be back playing, which is a great athlete. You know, you look at Cofield last year, I thought they probably improved more than anybody from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. They got most of them back. Alder Springs, they've lost a lot, but they'll be good. And Wartburg's got a new coach. You know, there's some uncertainty there. But if I was saying, I think it'll come down to Cofield or Alder Springs.
All right, and so then now let's widen it out. What about region-wise? Who's the biggest bully on the block?
Coach Shea, he does a great job at Harriman. You can't never count him out, but he lost 2 big kids that went to privates.
Both, and that's McCullough and
Cullen and the other left-handed kid that hurt us in the region. I can't think of his name. He went to Webb to play football. I think Rockwood's going to be pretty good this year. They got the prior kid back who's had a great off-season, great summer. I've seen him. Oakdale's returning a lot. Greenback, I haven't seen much of them, but they beat Harriman last year at the end of the season. They've got a great point guard. It'll be fun. We'll see what happens. You know, we've got to get there first.
What about, and drawing back and looking these teams in the East, North Green, Cosby, those guys always bring it. Who's to watch for over there?
And I seen North Green this summer. They're going to be good again. Cosby's going to be better. They've got a new coach. Didn't lose anybody. Jellicoe's going to be good. They didn't lose many. They beat us last year at home in overtime, I believe it was. And once we get there, I mean, you know, you get that sub-state game, anybody can win that game. You know, it's just whoever's hot that night. You know, it's a toss-up. Because once you get to that, everybody's good.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, it's not easy. It's not as easy as people think.
No.
Right. So who's a player that's going to surprise us this year?
Man, I've got a few, I think. I think Sam Bell's going to surprise some people. Just his maturity, how he's grown. Sam, you know, as a younger kid, was more of a cut-up, like to have fun. You can see the seriousness on his face. He's become more of a leader in practice, well, not practice, but conditioning and our lifting. You know, I think one that shouldn't be a surprise, but that will be because he's been sidelined with injuries for 2 years. I think Gavin Keaton, he's changed his body. He's lost a ton of weight. I'm not saying he's 100%, but I think he's got a good shot to play, and hopefully, good Lord willing, injury-free all season long. But just from top to bottom, you know, and Jarrett Hewlin being back and going to play is big for us. He had an okay summer. You could tell he hadn't played in a while, but then you got Mason Keaton, he's gotten taller. He's gotten stronger. Mason had a slow summer. He got hurt, and he finished out the last 7 or 8 ball games with a broke wrist. That's how tough his kid is. And couldn't shoot, couldn't make a free throw, bless his heart, but he continued to play. But, I mean, I've got so many that could be a surprise. But the ones that I've got right now, I've got 10. And I was talking to Coach Slavin today. Out of I guess it's my 6th or 7th year back. This group right here in the off season's probably worked harder, and there's been no complaints. They just come to work and grind.
Do you have an area of weakness? Can you shoot free throws?
Well, we're going to practice shooting free throws.
I mean,
I can't shoot it for
I'm
them.
trying to scout for the other coaches. They told me to ask this question. What do they attack?
I don't know.
What about strength? Just everywhere?
I don't know if we're strong everywhere. We got some kids that'll bruise with you. I mean,
So I've got a couple. You want another Mark question? Mark said, "Are you announcing your retirement before the season, or once you change classes at the end of the year?"
no, I'm
You're not afraid?
I'm not. No,
You're not afraid of Alcoa?
no, we'll play 'em.
We get that on tape.
We'll
Not
play 'em.
afraid. Okay, good. All right. Okay, how about this? I'm not going to ask you more Mark questions. Let me just ask you this. What about, we've been doing this Legends segment. You got any suggestions for us, people you'd like to hear from? Basketball. We're going to shift over and do some basketball legends.
Troy Aiden, Adam Wright.
Mm-hmm.
I know you done had Stan Pennington on here. Donald Sexton.
Okay.
You know,
do good.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, some of the guys that we had some great teams. Even after Coach Hall left, we still won the district 2 years. You got Kevin Wendell. You got Trey Shoemaker. Some of the guys that I grew up and graduated with.
All right. I got one more question.
All right.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
This one's the most important. Give me a final score Saturday night, Tennessee and Kentucky football. What's it going to be?
48-24 Tennessee.
All right.
I mean, I'm a
I'll
Kentucky
take it.
fan
If that's
through
true,
and
I'll
through. I'm a
take it.
Kentucky fan through and through.
Yeah.
If I'm betting that Tennessee scores more than they're supposed to win.
Yeah. All right.
Jake, let me ask you. Tim kind of hinted at this question, but he didn't press you on it like I feel like that he should have. He asked you, would you start with a 5 and run with that? So maybe that is a completely different question than I'm about to ask you. And it's an unfair question in a way because you don't have a lot of your football players.
Yeah.
Caden Rector, Landon Lindbergh, Jarrett Hewling. But if the season started today, can you say who your starting 5 would be?
No, I can't because we've not even practiced yet. I got it in my mind who it would be, but I'm not going to.
Okay, as a follow-up to that, you said you've got 10 guys. I
I've
assume
got 10 guys.
your rotation's going to be about 10 guys.
9, 10. Yeah,
Okay.
once we get everybody in.
Can you just kind of, and we've talked about a couple of them already, Mason Keaton, Gavin Keaton, Jerry Hewling, Sam Bell. Besides those 4.
You got Zeb Spradlin, Mason, Landon, Hayden Bronner, Caden Rector. You've got Grady Keaton, who's going to be a freshman that I think that can help us out. I've got, and I've got some freshmen that ain't there ready yet, but in a couple of years, I've got a good freshman class coming in. I've got a new kid, Ashton Moreland. I think he's out. I think he plays on the football team. I've not even got to talk to him yet, but I've got 7 or 8, 9 good kids that we can get out there, and one of them may not be able to do more than the other, but they're going to bring their part. I can promise you this: we're going to play hard. We're going to play defense. If you got Jason Pike on your sidelines, you're going to play defense or you're coming out, okay? And he gets the freedom. He can pull them, choking Coach Slavin if they're not doing their job. But I'm looking forward to the season. I'm nervous about it, and I don't know, not as nervous as far as the expectations. It just seems like things are more back to normal than they have ever been since the COVID. And I've got a team, not only the best player, but all the way down the list that's hungry. And, we talk about losing that district championship game last year every day. And I think for us to get to the region, the sub-state, we've got to take care of that and win that district tournament.
And I like your guards. I think you're a guard-oriented team. Seeing them back in the summertime, I really like the guards that you can put on the floor.
Well, and that will be our strong. I think this team right here, I was talking to Coach Slavin and Coach Pike and some others, that we will probably play faster than we have ever played, getting it up and down the floor as quick as we can, finding an open shooter. And, I've talked about just being able to coach and just let them go play. And I'm not saying I'm going to do that all the time, but I think this right here might be as close as a team as I've ever had. Just say, let's go play, But I am blessed at the guard position. But we've got some posts that Big Hayden Bronner, Zeb Spradlin, Gavin Keaton. I mean, I've got 3 post players right there that would start for anybody in single A, in my opinion.
And you can only start one of them.
I can only start 2
Or
of them.
2 of them. So how did those guys handle the competition? And after you answered that, what kind of because Hayden and Zeb are just typical big men. They're going to score around the basket. Gavin might be one of the best shooting big men that I've ever seen at the single A level. So he can present some mismatches for you.
The thing about Gavin, too, is we can spread that floor out even more if he's out on that perimeter, because if you don't guard him, he's going to shoot it. Also, he's probably maybe my best passer on the whole team. He can see that floor. We can do a lot of high-low stuff, I hope. And I think they will feed and grow off the competition against each other. I do. It won't be none of this. I'm against you. They're going to be for each other. I believe that with all my heart.
Do you think the pressure of following Coach West, knowing that he's going to win every night, is going to push you?
He's going to be pretty daggone good.
Just trying to set it when he has to come in for his time, right?
What's it going to be like going up against Wartburg and Joe Lane not being on the sideline? Because he's at Kingston now, finally left after all these years.
Well, that's true, but we got Kingston twice on the schedule.
Okay, so you're still
we're going to still, but it is going to be different. I mean, Joe built that program, and man, they sustained it for a lot of years, and it took us a while to get up over the top and finally start beating the Wartburg and Joe Lane. Joe Lane's one of what I call a good friend. We talk some, and he's fun to coach against, and probably be, if everything goes away, I see it. We'll probably be seeing him twice a year, every year, until in Double A. There's a good possibility, but it'll be different going down and playing at Wartburg without Joe Lane being there, and then it seems like and I'm the oldest guy in the district now as far as years coaching at the same school, and then when I first come here, you got Joe Lane, been there 30 years,
Yeah.
So the dean of District 4.
Well, I don't know if you call me the dean. I'm the oldest. I mean, as far as years.
Like Dean Smith.
No.
All right. Any parting thoughts? Anything you want to tell Mark Matthews?
Yeah, Mark wants to know why he's not ever been invited to be on the show.
Mark is hosting Halloween night.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, I'm breaking that news right here.
But I do want to say hi to my sons, Colton and Tucker, who's watching, and Hallie back home. And, guys, I'm going to tell you something. Our schedule's tough. We start out at the Hall of Fame over there. Jordan asked me. He didn't put it on me. He asked me. He said, you want to play Fulton? I said, yeah, we'll play them. I got to play Danny Boone, and we got Campbell County twice. We got Pickett County, who's always good, twice. We got our schedule's it's going to be tough, but I think I've got the team that, if we lose, we'll bounce back. And if we win, we'll just grow off of it. And like I said, I'm playing for January, February, March. If we go 500, win our, do what we're supposed to, that's fine. I want to play the best teams to get us ready for the tournament.
All right. 09 Coach Jacob King, good luck this season.
Thank you, guys.
And expectations are high, but you got a good team. We look forward to seeing them.
Thank you.
All right. And just to let everybody know, by the way, Jake is the first of the 4 coaches who will be joining us. Next week, we will have Scott High Lady Highlander coach Jake Wright. And then the following week, we'll round things out with Coach Marv West of the United Lady Indians and also new Scott High boys coach Rusty Yates. So coming up next, we're going to be joined by our Black Cat legend of the game as the roundtable continues. Welcome back to the Roundtable on the IH Sports Network. It is time for our Black Cat legend of the game. And before we get to our legend of the game and introduce him, let me remind you that you've got one more weekend. Am I right, Tim Smith, to get down to the haunted house at the Black Cat?
I mean, if you dare. I'm not going. I can't handle that. I'm scared. I'm scared sitting here. I mean, I going there. That's out of the question.
Anytime.
But if you want to get scared, it's going to happen there. Yeah.
But anytime you got an opportunity to get out to the Black Cat, they have got so much stuff in their store. I'm not even talking about the haunted house. I'm talking about the store.
Yeah.
It is fascinating to go through, even if Halloween is not your thing, because I think sometimes people think it's just a Halloween store. It is definitely not. But they're Halloween people. Mo and the Mullises are Halloween people. That is definitely the best time to visit the Black Cat.
And like I say, they do have they're going to have eventually a Scott County Oneida Museum set up there, and they've got a lot of nice things already there. So, I mean, you won't get bored walking through there. I can promise you that.
Yeah. All right. So the Black Cat is our sponsor of the Legend of the Game, and as we have done this Legend series this season, we've had some middle-aged guys, we've had some old guys. I hesitate to say that, but we have.
Yes.
But tonight we got a young guy, Wesley Smith, former Scott High running back. Barely into his 30s, so graduated, I think you said, in 2006.
Yep.
But definitely left a mark on the Highlander program while you were there. And we've been talking about you a lot. Rick and Woody have been talking about you a lot this season through the broadcast. And so welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be considered a legend. I know there's many guys that's played and continue to play. It's a lot better than me that I look, but it's definitely an honor to be here and be considered as one.
Well, the thing about it, you hold the single-game rushing record for the Highlanders. You hold the season rushing record for the Highlanders. You have the career rushing record for the Highlanders. Legend?
I think so.
Definitely.
The good news is, Wesley, we keep up with our stats. We come up with our numbers. We were at Fulton, and last week I was looking at their press packet. Well, we had just credited you with Woody. Woody had just credited you with 325 rushing yards against Fulton over there in 2005, but they've got you with 329 yards. Mm-hmm. So we're going to use their number because they were the official home team. Mm-hmm. That improves your season rushing record to 1,738 yards and your career record to 3,824 yards. We just found out, a few months ago that Woody had omitted your freshman season, so that's the reason I've had to change that. So every time we think Wesley Smith, your numbers seem to go up there just a little bit.
Well, that works. I'll take it. I'm just hoping one day maybe I can get back to helping coach and maybe coach some guys that'll break those records. That's what my goal is.
Indeed. As we turn back, we look at your high school career more. Who's your head coach? And was the same head coach for 4 years?
It was Gary Sexton. He come in my freshman year, and he was my coach all 4 years.
Now, Jason Terry says that he was the running backs coach on the Highlander program. Is he just Josh and me? He was there on the coaching staff about that time.
I've got to give him credit. Yeah, he was my running back coach.
See, we didn't know that, did we? But Jason, once again, taking credit for somebody who had natural skills and probably would have, could have done it on his own there like that. Any interesting story you want to tell us about Coach Sexton? He's sort of a favorite of ours, and as long as things were going good, he was an extremely fine person to talk to. But if it got rough.
Oh yeah. Now, as in being coached by Gary Sexton, and I believe he leaned on me a lot to make plays. Me and him butted heads a lot. I love Gary Sexton, but it's as a hard-nosed coach, expecting a lot out of your players, and he was at the time I might have took it personally, but he was just trying to make me a better human being, a better player, and get my full potential out of me. And I appreciate Gary Sexton. Me and him, we're friends, and we stay in contact now. Talk about a whole lot of other things, and try to encourage a lot of people.
Who were some of the other coaches on the staff through your career?
Coach Shannon, he was he's fiery. I love Coach Shannon. I seen him on your show here, and I'm telling you, it made me nervous watching him because Coach Shannon, he remembers everything about the game. He remembers details about the game, and I'm like, I can't amount up to that. If you're want me to remember details, it's gone. So, but he, Coach Shannon, we had David Gillum. He was helping my senior year, and he helped me out a lot with vision and stuff like that as a running back and setting up blocks and all that. I appreciate him. He's at Anderson County now, doing great things there. Had Tony Zachary. He's another one that just fire you up and you can run through a brick wall whenever he gave a speech. But all the coaches out there, they influenced me in some sort of way.
Indeed. Coach Zachary, his famous phrase, War Daddy?
War Daddy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's where that came from. Occasionally it still gets thrown out there occasionally as a War Daddy. You had a chance a couple of years ago. I'm going to go back to football more, but you had a chance a couple of years ago to coach backs under Coach Terry.
Yes.
There, and I think you enjoyed that experience quite a bit, being around those young men and just tell us about the experience, because you were there 2 years or 3.
I was there a couple of years, and it just, it's an honor to be able to coach, especially at the same school that you went to. It was, for me, a lot about football, but more about teaching these young men how to become men, and life lessons, and it was, it was just a privilege to be able to be out there. I got a job offer, and I took it where it took time away from. And whenever
took you to Texas, actually, didn't it?
Well, that was I went to Texas before I coached, but I ended up going to Oak Ridge and working at Y12 and a couple different places over there, which the drive making it back to practice, it wasn't logical, to be able to coach. But I'm actually back in the county now. I'm working back at Great Dane, and I'm thankful for Great Dane and the opportunities they've given me there. Me and my wife, we've got some projects going on, so I was asked by Coach Harris to help coach this past year. But the time I've got right now, it's the time I want to put in to help coach these kids. I've not got at the moment because I've got different projects going on. But hopefully one day that I can get those projects done and maybe get out there and help coach again.
As we think back, we'll concentrate on 2005. We all knew you came in primed, real healthy to start 2005. And the Fulton game, we know that was a big game for you there. Are there any other games in that season that stand out for you?
Now, I know we opened up with York that season, and we came out setting the tone. I was able to rush for, I think it was 301 yards that game, and which broke my previous school record. That game really stood out, which there was Livingston, we ended up playing Livingston that year, and Livingston went on to win the state championship, and we went to the wire with them, and it was a good back-and-forth football game. I remember there was some turnovers that had us in the game where we were fixing to shut them out, but things went the other way. But it was an awesome football game to be able to play them down to the wire, and it just a whole lot of all the games, they've got their own memories in themselves,
If I remember that Livingston game, the last game of the season, I think, and it could have been them making the playoffs, us making the playoffs. We lost to them, and they went into the playoffs, and that made them 5-5 on the season. They won their next 5 games through the state championship. And that started a streak, I think, in 2003 or 4. A team in our district or region, whatever you want to call it, played in or won a state championship game. There was 19 consecutive years that some team in our region or district won the state championship, going through the Alcoa years too, the last 6 or 7 that they've won. But that was a real game that defined a Highlander season and maybe what could have been, because nobody had high expectations for Livingston, and they were the only team, if memory serves me right, and Jason can confirm, they were the only team in our district at that time that was from the Central Time Zone. And every game they played was Knoxville or East Knoxville or us. Everything was a 2-hour or plus road trip for them. So, it's remarkable what they've done. I can look here at some of the other games. This is from let me make sure I've got the 2005 season pulled up here. That is 5. We played York, Gibbs, Oliver Springs, Austin East, Fulton, Livingston. So they weren't the last game. They were the 7th game. Kingston, Anderson County, and Knox Catholic. So look at the list. Think about those teams. And the ones that have won state championships out of that bunch: Austin East, Fulton, Livingston Academy, Kingston, Catholic, and Anderson County still searching, but this may be their year there. So It was a schedule that was certainly tough on us to play for the back-and-back years after that, and also be in that particular region. Any of those opponents stand out more than others?
Kingston, they're always our big rival. That's not discrediting anybody that we play, but it seems like if you want to see a hard-hitting football game, you go to Kingston, and it's going to be some smash mouth football whenever we play them.
We trailed at Kingston by several points at halftime, and at that time their coach may have tacked on a late score at halftime. Do you remember the Gary Sexton explosion where Gary chased Coach King down from across the field and wondered why he'd done that? I mean, you're talking about Coach Sexton. I thought he was going to whip Coach Vic King at Kingston that time.
Yeah, he definitely gets fiery. I remember Kingston. It just, that game, what sticks out about to me about that game, I remember I come out, I was having an awesome defensive game. You know, we haven't been clicking on offense yet, but my defensive game was on. I'm making a few tackles. They had that big running back. He was 200-plus pounds, number 34. I don't remember his name, but I remember him. And if he got past the line of scrimmage, he's hard to take down. And I wasn't letting him. And when we got on offense, I remember breaking a run, and I got stood up. I had two of their linebackers come in and hit me from the sides, and that's when I went down. And I actually had a severely bruised kidneys where I was actually peeing blood, and they thought I had lacerations on them where I had to go get a CT scan. But I continued playing a couple downs that game and got some, but it got so painful that I couldn't hardly stand up. But yeah, that was a rough game because I never liked sitting out or, you know.
The only other injury that I can remember in your high school career, was it a hip that bothered you a little bit?
It's a lot. Most of my shoulders.
Okay.
My shoulders, I still have fits out of them, but my shoulders, they pop in and out like crazy, and it seemed like every time I'd go for an open arm tackle, my shoulders would go with them. And you know, I'd always have to have Coach Terry over there putting on that Solely brace on me, and trying to get it on. It took 30 minutes getting it on because it was so tight. But now they've got wraps and tapes, and, you know, it'd been nice to have that back then.
Yes, it would have. They keep coming up with newer things, newer inventions each and every year.
Yeah, I needed to be taped back together.
About everybody that delivered punishment or received punishment when you played football, you feel like that, and it adds up as the years compound there like that. I want to talk with you just a little bit about after your high school career and after getting out of high school. In my mind, you've got a little bit of a ministry. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think it's important to hear things for our soul so much. And can you share that with us a little bit?
Yeah. The way I look at it now, my life is an open book, you know, and I'm not ashamed of my past. You know, I'm ashamed of some of the stuff that I've done in my past. But my past is my testimony and how I can share with other people, especially young kids that's playing today. You know, that you've got this mindset that after every football game you go to parties, you know, and you celebrate. Well, I got caught up in that. As a star running back, you know, everybody wanted you to go to the parties and, you know, hey, Wesley Smith is going to be there. And I got caught up in that, and I got to drinking and other stuff that went along with parties. And what it ended up was taking me down a 14-year addiction of multiple drugs that, you know, like I said, I'm not proud of it. But, you know, the Lord allowed me to survive that, to be able to maybe help other kids that may be going through it. And it all you know, I'm not saying it started in the locker room, but the things that come after games, football games, and, you know, football, basketball, anything like that, that's where it started for me. And it, you know, I got caught up in it and spiraled down, and now that's what I do. I try my best to, like I said, leave my life as an open book. And if you've got questions, I don't care to answer them. It don't matter if you've got a history with sports or anything, if you know somebody, or if you yourself has been caught up in addiction, I've got resources, I've got friends that can get you the help you need, and there's no shame in asking for help. For a long time, that was my biggest problem. I was ashamed where I was at, and I was scared to ask for help, and that just I continued trying to hide my life, and it took me away from football. It took me away from family. It took me away from friends. But now I've got the help I needed. I reached out and asked for help. Lost a lot of stuff that I'm not, I wish I never lost, but I did. Addiction, drugs, alcohol, it don't tell you about that stuff. It don't tell you about the stuff you'll lose. It just tells you about the good times at the parties or whatever else like that. But losing things comes along with it. But now I try my best to share my testimony to football players, to my coworkers, anybody I come in contact with. Even if I'm at Walmart, you can find me talking to somebody about it, just helping them out, trying my best to help them.
And I've heard that before, as you've spoken to the football team a couple of times over the years and to other groups, and it takes courage. Yeah. It takes courage to be able to walk up and say, I led a life. I found help.
Yeah.
I overcame that life, recommitted to the Lord, and my life is moving forward in a much better position than it had been in that dark period for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it took me down a long, dark path, and I get people, often asking me about football, what would you have done, don't you wish that you would have went on to college and played football? Don't you wish you would have done this or done that? And, Rick, I'll be honest with you. I might have back then, but now I am so thankful from where I'm at. I might not have a fancy house or nice cars, but I've got a family, and I've got a wife that loves me, and I've got kids that I'm actually a father to now, and I'm raising them. I'm thankful for my life. It wouldn't have been the same if my life wasn't any different, so I'm absolutely thankful for it.
Well, it's a remarkable story. A lot of people never have the opportunity to bounce back, to have that opportunity to change. And you took it, and I'm sure it was very tough, very hard on you, and I know it was on the family. But you've overcame that. And the chance to speak with young people, to be into coaching again, and I feel that's an area that you would really like to jump back into and coach it sometime.
Absolutely. I've always wanted to share the knowledge that I have, whether it be in sports or life lessons, and it's crucial in the high school atmosphere to be able to teach about life along with football itself. They're fixing to enter into adulthood. They move out of the house. They got to get jobs. They need to hear it. So hopefully one day that everything works out, I can get back into coaching and be able to share that with them.
Well, I have an opportunity after some football practices, and last Friday night after the game to go in the dressing room, talk to the coaches, and your ears were burning last week on 2 or 3 days because Wesley Smith, his name came up, and what he does, what he has meant, and the leader of our program back when you were in school. And it's a pleasure that you were able to come here, and I hope that we didn't scare you too much. Woody said you were quivering and shaking and worried about this, but hopefully it's not as bad as you thought it would be.
I was a little nervous, and my wife, she encourages me a lot, but she also says, Wesley, you say too much. So you can go ahead and have a counter on the screen up there if you'd like, and I know she's tailing it down. She's going to tell me when I get home how many I said. So.
Oh, I hope she didn't count mine then, because I'm one of those guys. Hey, guys, anything you want to ask Wesley here?
I just enjoyed hearing your story and enjoyed hearing all the stories. And I never got to see you guys because we were always busy on Fridays. We never got to see those teams. But, just heard the statistic, didn't meet the people, but outstanding interview. We enjoyed it.
I think the biggest part for me is you did some incredible things on the field. And people tend to forget over the years those things. But, yeah, as you talk about them, that stuff pops back. But what you don't hear a lot of times is the things that come after and the way that you bounce back. And I know you've used that to help a lot of young people. And I think you're probably going to be using that to help kids at Scott High and in this community for years to come.
I hope so. If any way I can help kids, I hope it's that.
All right. Our Black Cat legend of the game, Scott High's all-time leading rusher, Wesley Smith. We will take another break. When we come back, we will wrap things up as we look ahead to this week's games. Welcome back to the Roundtable on the IH Sports Network. We're live at El Rey, and as always, we're going to wrap things up by talking about this week's games. And as we talk about this week's games, we are joined by this week's featured cheerleaders. And we've got a couple of Oneida cheerleaders with us, Lexi Buttram and Abby Crabtree. Now, let me explain. We typically have one from each school. Abby's sitting over here by Rick. She is not a Scott High cheerleader. She is an Oneida cheerleader. Scott High cheerleaders were having a party tonight, and for whatever reason, they felt that was more important than being. I don't know. Anyway, so
choices.
Choices.
I tell you. But so we'll get back to Scott High cheerleaders next week. But for this week, Abby was kind enough to join us along with Lexi. And as we start, Lexi, I'm going to ask you this. You're a sophomore now, so second year as a cheerleader at Oneida. At this point, are you still Noah Buttram's little sister? Or are you Tanner Buttram's sister, or do you get to be Lexi Buttram, the cheerleader?
I am still Noah Buttram's little sister.
Right.
And for those who don't know, Noah Buttram, former Oneida quarterback and basketball player, outstanding athlete. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see a whole lot of his high school career because it just seemed like he was always sidelined with injuries throughout his 4 years in high school. But so that's where that comes from. But hopefully, and by the way, Tanner is not just your brother, twin brother. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Yeah. So are you in his shadow as well?
No.
Okay. So wonderful. Now I have been told, and since you're here, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
I'm not going to say who told me, but I'm going to let you clarify. I have been told that Tanner versus Noah, relative to their age, like Tanner right now is a sophomore, and Noah when he was a sophomore, Tanner can throw the football better than Noah. Right or wrong?
Right.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. So there you go. All right. So Abby Crabtree with us as well. And Abby, I said last week that the question of is cheerleading a sport has been retired because I took so much criticism and ridicule from Tim Smith, and that's what he does. I mean, if you know him, it's just, it's like an insecurity issue with him. But I am going to ask you how you got into cheerleading.
Well, I was in soccer, and it just kind of got boring, and my sister was a cheerleader, and at pep rallies I would always watch them and think it was fun and stuff and be like, oh well, I kind of want to do that. And then I just tried out, and if I didn't make it, I was going to do soccer still, but I just thought it would seem be something fun to try.
So did you cheer in middle school, or?
I've never cheered before.
Never cheered. So this is your
this
first
is my first year.
Has it lived up to your expectations?
It has. I've definitely, I've felt more included with the school than in soccer, and I just think it's more fun.
So one of the questions that I have asked the last couple of weeks that Tim has not harped on me so much that I quit asking it yet, he probably will after this week, but I've asked, do you enjoy football or basketball more? Well, I can't ask you that because you've not yet experienced basketball season as a cheerleader, but as we get ready to wrap up football season and go into basketball, because this time next month we're going to be in basketball, what do you think? You thinking basketball will be more fun, or are you going to miss football?
I'm definitely going to miss football because, it seems more exciting being, out there and everything. But, basketball, it seems like it's more, I don't know. I think I'm just really going to miss football more, to be honest. I don't know about basketball.
And, Lexi, as we swing back over to you, I'm going to ask you, I saw you walk in with Gabe Brennan, who is Nate Brennan's son. Nate Brennan is our foot doctor in Scott County. Now, I'm not going to ask you, because Tanner is a backup quarterback for Oneida, so is Gabe. I'm not going to ask you who throws the ball better between the two of them, because that would probably start something. I am going to ask you this, though, about Dr. Nate Brennan. Did you know that he was once recruited by Butch Jones?
No, I did not.
Did you guys know that?
Was it the Cincinnati?
It was actually
Before.
no. This was back like at some I don't know, like maybe a community college
I
way
mean,
back when Butch Jones.
I mean, he's clearly a champion of life, and that's what Butch
Definitely.
Jones recruited,
He-
right? We
Nate-
know that.
Nate Brennan,
Yeah.
champion of life.
Absolutely.
So I think we need Nate on the show. Nate, this is a challenge. We've got to get you on it. I don't know if it's fair to call him a legend of the game, but we got to get him on here to talk about being recruited by Butch Jones at some point. So, okay. So now let me ask you guys, do you keep up with football aside from Oneida when they're playing on Friday night?
No.
No. Okay. So last week we had Braylon Bird from Scott High and we had Anna Hamilton from Oneida, and those guys were under the gun because we had a list of games that was like an entire sheet. Okay. So you guys have got it easy this week. You've got 6 games to pick from this week. That's all the games that there are involving our local teams within these regions. So we're going to start off by talking about teams involving region opponents. Then I'm going to ask these guys about our local games this week as we close out the regular season. But you guys get to pick the winner of every game this week. So you're
Easy
on,
peasy.
no pressure, okay?
And no prize either.
And no prize either.
Yeah,
And
so really.
we haven't even been keeping up with the verification scores, have we? So,
No.
so we don't even know, like at this point, who's got the lead in this thing. But so here we go. We're going to start off with I think this is a good game, Tim Smith. This week, Region 2 championship on the line. Rockwood versus York. This game is going to be played in Jamestown. Rockwood is 6-3. York is 5-4. I'm going to start over here, Abby. Who you got winning that football game?
I say Rockwood.
And why?
Oh.
Oh, okay. I don't know. It just they seemed really good whenever we played against them.
Better than York.
I don't think. When was yours? When have we ever played against York?
Not
Yeah,
too many
but-
weeks ago.
When was
I can fill that one in. It hadn't been long.
Oh, okay.
Your
Rockwood for
turn.
that one too.
Okay, and I mean Tim wants more. Why Rockwood?
I don't know.
What? York, they are purple and gold. Rockwood is green and gold. Which one wins? Which is the better color
I like
scheme?
purple.
So
I
you're
agree.
changing your pick.
That'd be yours.
Oh. I guess so. I like
setting you up.
purple. So.
Yeah, he said yeah.
What about you?
Definitely
Green and gold or purple and gold?
green and gold.
All right, there we go.
So but for the record, let's nail this down. The Region 2 2A champion after this week is going to be Rockwood. That's who you guys are picking. Okay. Moving on, another one. Monterey at Wartburg. Monterey is 7-2. Wartburg is 3-6. Monterey's also got a lot riding on the line this week. There's 2 more teams that Oneida's familiar with. Who you got in this one, Lexi?
Remember those?
I got Monterey.
Yes, I do.
Monterey. Okay.
Monterey.
Monterey should be Monterey by a lot, right?
Because they're also purple. I mean, they are.
Okay,
Just
and
throwing that in there.
those are the only 2 games from Oneida's region, except for Oneida themselves, of course. So we'll switch to Scott High now, and you guys don't even remember when Oneida played York, so you're not even gonna know. You're not going to know anything about Scott High's opponents, but we're going to run through them anyway. South Doyle is playing at Gibbs this week. This is an important game. South Doyle's still got a chance to get into the playoffs. Gibbs has got a chance to lock down a home game in the playoffs if they can win. South Doyle's 2-7. Gibbs is 5-4. Who do you like in that
But
game?
wait just a second. Remember, they're playing at Central High School.
Right. Home game for Gibbs at Central High School.
So can I pick Central? I think Central would win against either one of those
I
teams.
think, yeah, but that's not an option.
Gibbs.
Gibbs, okay, good pick.
I'm just gonna say Gibbs too, because I
Just,
don't.
just to go along.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Gibbs, I think that's a logical choice. Gibbs has probably got the upper hand in that one. They're playing well. Fulton 4-5 against Carter 5-4. This is an even bigger game. Okay. The winner of this game probably will get Rick Heaton that home playoff spot. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
So Fulton against Carter. Who do you like in that game?
Fulton.
Because your Uncle Scott lives near Fulton.
I don't know.
Yeah, he does. Uncle Scott lives near Fulton, right? So that would be, that'd be the team.
All right. There you go. That's good reasoning.
The
Shout
other
out.
one? What was the other one?
Just Fulton or Carter?
Carter.
You're taking Carter.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that.
They're green. Does that make any difference?
No.
Okay.
Rick and I like Carter in that game as well, by the way, to beat Fulton. You're probably going to be right. Lexi's probably going to be wrong.
That's not a quote, though, but that's who we like.
No, that's our pick. That's our pick. So, all right, so now we get real. Okay, so we've got 2 games this week, home games for Oneida and Scott High. It's senior night, Friday night for both of these teams against 2 really, really tough opponents. It's hard to sit down here and pick the opposition to win against either of the local schools, really, but especially you guys are from Oneida. We got an Oneida football player sitting over here, but you're on the spot, okay? So get ready to answer that. But first, okay, get a little break to think about it. Tim Smith, Coalfield, and Oneida. What does Oneida have to do? This is an opportunity game for Oneida because Coalfield, I think they're underrated. I really do think they're underrated. I think they're one of the best single A teams in the state. Opportunity game for Oneida.
I mean, they're ranked 7, so it's
underrated.
They're
better than that.
rated under 6 teams is what you're talking about.
They're better than that.
You have to play 4 quarters for sure. You can't have a slow start against the Coalfield Yellow Jackets. You've got to have the passing game that was your strength and the running game that was your strength last week working. Both things. Keep the ball away from them. Keep them off balance. Keep Cole Hines in check. Coach Mark Martin's trying to figure out a way to put some pressure on the Coalfield quarterback. That's a lot. It's a big list because they're a very good team. But that's my list.
All right, Coalfield is 8-1. They're coming in here on riding a 3-game winning streak. They beat Oliver Springs last week, 50-0. Oneida comes in at 4-5. Give us a winner. Oneida. All right, I like your confidence.
I'm going to say Oneida.
All right, so it's unanimous. Oneida over Coalfield this Friday night. You heard it here. Oneida is going to spring the upset. Tim, going into the playoffs, Oneida's got another really tough game the following week going up to Hampton. Does this game against Coalfield make a difference in that? Obviously, if you beat them, that gives you a huge confidence boost going into that game. How does this game matter as far as setting up the next game?
I mean, if you compete with them, you don't have to – I mean, you want to beat them, obviously. But you finish a tough one-score game against this Coalfield team, you have found a lot of good things to build on. You try to turn them over. I mean, that's another thing. We talked about how short a middle school game is. A high school game's not all that much longer, especially if you can get the other team to throw an interception or fumble the football. That shortens the game in your favor. So I think, yes, it's the way you play it. You can lose to Coalfield and still gain a lot of confidence in what you're doing going into Hampton.
All right. I need, before we get to the Scott High game, I need to clear something up. Nate Brennan says it was Wilkes University. That's where he was being recruited by Coach Butch Jones. So there you know, Lexi. It was Wilkes University. I don't know where Wilkes University is. Apparently they're a Division III school somewhere up north.
They're underrated. I think they're number 7 or something.
Whatever. Tim's saying get off of the Nate subject because he said he. I agree, Tim. Nate comes across very like a contrarian on Twitter, doesn't he, when it comes to sports?
You agree with who? I didn't state that.
Okay. So, Scott High and Anderson County, Rick. Scott High comes in looking for their first win of the season. Anderson County comes in at 9-0. I think are they still number 2 probably in the polls in Class 4A. I think that they've got as good a chance. Like Tim said about Coalfield, we don't know what's on the west side of the state. We haven't seen those teams. You even think Greenville may be still better than Anderson County. I think Anderson County's going to get them.
I've said all year I think Anderson County's the beast. I think they're prepared for Greenville. Greenville just happens to be 1 in the poll and Anderson County 2.
There's kind of an old cliche in sports. They're the team to beat until you beat them, and that certainly applies to Greenville. So, but for Anderson County, coming off that big win over Bearden last week, what do you want to see out of Scott High this week?
I want to see us be competitive. I want to be able for us offensively to go out and put together drives. Maybe not score at the end of those drives, but, hey, let's take 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes off the clock on these possessions. Let's slow the game down a little bit. Anderson County will come in with a couple of extraordinary running backs. One of them is already, I think, going to go to the Naval Academy. He's probably going to be a linebacker there, however. But the 2 running backs are also the 2 inside linebackers. And they bring in a quarterback that throws the ball with the best we've seen this year, and I think we've seen some very good passers. And they've got an outstanding receiver that is also going to a D1 school. I mean, so Anderson County with the college prospects and us trying to hang in there. The way we do it is one possession at a time, try to make the possessions take time off the clock, move the ball, and at least have Anderson County have the long field. If they've got to traverse, of course, they can do that in 2 plays. But, at least try to make them have long scoring possessions each time.
All right, so you guys, Lexi, Abby, you guys are almost off the hook. But before we go, I'm going to take a page out of Tim Smith's playbook, and he doesn't like me very much right now. I mean, he's sitting here, he's fuming because of.
Because I never said anything about Nate Brennan
Well, you were thinking
negatively.
we're all thinking it. I mean, come on.
Let's hear the page. Out of the
Okay,
playbook,
so the
yes.
page is anybody that you guys want to give a shout out while you're here before we close this out.
Holy cow.
Nope, you. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You still got time.
You know, it could be mamas, it could be brothers, it could be co-cheerleaders, your boyfriends that's on the football team. It can be anybody.
Yeah, I'll give it to Gabe Brennan
Not Nate.
I don't know anymore.
and Nate. I'll give it to Gabe and Nate.
Okay, good deal. Okay, all right. So, you guys are Oneida cheerleaders. You've got friends though at Scott High. So this is. I mean, keep that in mind. Okay, Scott High against Anderson County Friday night. Who do you like in that game?
You won't hurt my feelings. Go ahead.
I'll put some faith into Scott High. I'll say
Thank
maybe
you.
they.
You can
think
come
they-
back next week then.
That would be a monumental upset.
I'm gonna give it to Anderson County.
Okay, all right. So see, brutal. Just laying it out there, telling it
Hurts,
like it
hurts
is.
my feelings, I'm telling you.
She may have friends in Anderson County.
That probably
Yeah.
there are a lot of connections between Scott County and Anderson County.
Yeah, there's a young man that starts on the Anderson County team that is from, well, naturally, Helmwood. I mean, I want to bring that out there. So
So there you go.
Zeke West. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So there you have it. It's going to be Oneida over Coalfield. We're agreed on that. And we're split on whether it's going to be Scott High or Anderson County. Hey, regardless, Oneida will host Coalfield Friday night. Scott High will host Anderson County Friday night. 7:30 is the kickoff in both of those games. It is senior night. There is a whole lot of seniors that are going to be playing their final home game on Friday night. And for the Scott High seniors, it's going to be the final game of their career. So if you can get out to those games on Friday night, please get out and support those kids because they've worked hard. They deserve it. And not just the football players, by the way. A lot of cheerleaders are going to be cheering their final football game at home as well on Friday night. And, of course, we'll have the coverage of both games starting at 6:30 at Jim May Stadium and starting at 6:50 at Highlander Stadium in Huntsville. We'll see you on Friday night. Until then, thank you for watching and good night.